What if Luffy never met Shanks? This is a world where Luffy never ate the gum-gum fruit, where his stretchy limbs and iconic Gear 4th never existed. What if he never met Shanks, the red-haired pirate who gave him the straw hat, sparked his dream, and ultimately set him on the path to becoming the Pirate King? Without Shanks, Luffy might have lived a quiet life in Fuschia Village, or worse, become a Marine under his grandfather Garp's strict guidance. The Straw Hats we know and love? They'd never exist. The world of One Piece would be unrecognizable. So, what would Luffy's life and the world look like if Shanks had never walked into that tiny village? Luffy without the gum-gum fruit, the devil fruit, which turned him into a living rubber band, was an accident during one of Shanks' visits, a twist of fate that defined his journey. Without that moment, Luffy wouldn't have his stretchy limbs, his indomitable Gear 4th, or the creative combat strategies that rely on his unique physiology. He would have to depend entirely on his raw physical strength, combat instincts, and the unyielding determination that defines him. Would Luffy still be the same without the gum-gum fruit? His victories over foes like Crocodile, Enel, and Doflamingo heavily relied on his rubbery powers, making those battles nearly impossible without them. Yet Luffy's true strength lies in his indomitable spirit, his resolve to protect his friends and fight for his dreams. Still, without the resilience of his rubber body, he'd face far greater challenges, with riskier battles, severe injuries, and a harder time leading his crew to victory. This version of Luffy would likely develop a very different fighting style. Perhaps, under Garp's influence, he'd focus on mastering raw strength and haki from an early age. Without the reliance on his devil fruit, he'd become a scrappier, more strategic fighter, drawing from his natural talents and rigorous training. Even so, this alternate Luffy would lack some of the over-the-top flair and ingenuity that makes him such a joy to watch in battle. The world of One Piece would certainly feel less vibrant without the wild unpredictability of Luffy's rubbery antics. A childhood without Shanks' influence. Shanks wasn't just the guy who inadvertently made Luffy a devil fruit user. He was Luffy's role model, a living example of everything a pirate could be. Shanks embodied courage, kindness, and freedom, and he gave Luffy a vision of what it meant to live life on your terms. It was Shanks who taught Luffy that being a pirate wasn't about causing chaos or amassing wealth. It was about adventure, camaraderie, and staying true to your values. Without Shanks, Luffy's formative years would have been drastically different. Life in Fuschia Village would have been quieter, perhaps even a bit mundane. While Luffy would still have his mischievous streak, climbing trees, playing pranks, and getting into scrapes, there would be no grand tales of the high seas, no boisterous laughter of Shanks' crew filling the village, and no dramatic moment of Shanks sacrificing his arm to save Luffy. That single act of bravery and kindness was pivotal in shaping Luffy's understanding of courage and sacrifice. Without Shanks to ignite his dream of becoming the Pirate King, Luffy might have grown up with a much dimmer view of pirates. He might have seen them as little more than dangerous criminals, troublemakers who brought misery wherever they went. Without the stolen straw hat as a symbol of his promise to Shanks, Luffy's ambition might have been less clear, his purpose less defined. Instead of dreaming of freedom and adventure, he might have settled for a simpler life in the village, or worse, lived aimlessly without the spark that Shanks gave him. This lack of inspiration wouldn't just affect Luffy, it would ripple outward. Shanks' crew brought a sense of wonder and excitement to Fuschia Village, something that might have indirectly influenced everyone there. Without their presence, the village would have remained quieter, but perhaps it would also have felt smaller, more constrained. For Luffy, the absence of Shanks would mean the loss of a guiding star, leaving him without the mentor who set him on the path to becoming one of the most beloved characters in anime history. The influence of Garp and the Marines. In this alternate timeline, without Shanks' influence, Luffy's life might have followed a path laid out by his grandfather, Monkey D. Garp. Garp, the hero of the Marines, always envisioned Luffy as a Marine like himself. With no pirate dreams to rebel against, Luffy might have found himself swept up in Garp's vision for him, undergoing rigorous training and learning the ways of the Marines from an early age. Picture it, Luffy in a Marine uniform standing at attention, ready to enforce justice across the seas. Under Garp's strict tutelage, he would likely develop extraordinary strength and discipline. His natural talent for combat, combined with Garp's insistence on haki training, could turn Luffy into a formidable marine, possibly even stronger than the one we know. He might even climb the ranks quickly, earning a reputation as a relentless fighter with an unconventional style. Luffy's free spirit and defiance of authority make him a poor fit for the rigid marine structure. His moral compass would likely clash with orders, earning him a reputation as a maverick who bends rules to protect the innocent or challenge corruption. Though his rebellious streak might lead to reprimands or demotions, his genuine heart would still win the loyalty of his fellow Marines. This version of Luffy could be fascinating to imagine. A Marine who fights for justice on his terms, navigating the politics and power struggles within the organization. However, the constraints of Marine life might also weigh heavily on him. The desire for freedom and adventure that defines Luffy might still burn within him, leading to internal conflict. Would he eventually abandon the Marines to forge his path? Or would he find a way to reconcile his values with his role, becoming a force for good within an imperfect system? Whatever the case, Luffy's journey as a Marine would be a radically different story, but one that still hinges on his unbreakable will and determination. The fates of Ace and Sabo. Without Shanks' influence shaping Luffy's dream of becoming Pirate King, his relationship with Ace and Sabo would likely remain one of the few constants in his life. The trio's bond, forged in the wilds of Mount Kalubo, was built on their shared yearning for freedom and adventure. But without Luffy's drive to become a pirate, their shared dreams might have taken a vastly different shape. Luffy, instead of setting out to become a captain with his crew, might have devoted himself to supporting Ace or Sabo in their pursuits. He could have played the role of a steadfast ally, someone who fought by their side and pushed them toward greatness. But here's the complexity. Luffy's ambition to become Pirate King wasn't just about him, it was a spark that inspired Ace and Sabo in their ways. Ace's pirate journey, for instance, was fueled in part by his relationship with Luffy. If Luffy had no dreams of his own or chose to stay under Garp's shadow as a Marine, Ace's path might have shifted. Would Ace still have become the daring commander of the Whitebeard Pirates? Or might he have felt unmoored, lacking the shared drive that pushed him to prove himself in a world that constantly questioned his worth? Without Luffy's fiery ambition, Sabo's path to the Revolutionary Army becomes uncertain. The brothers might have stayed together, forging a unique middle path as freedom fighters or vigilantes, operating outside traditional systems. Though their bond would remain strong, the absence of Luffy's dream would cast a shadow on their journey, altering the essence of their shared aspirations. A world without the Straw Hats. This is where the alternate timeline becomes truly heartbreaking. Without Luffy setting sail as a pirate, the Straw Hat crew, the family he built from the people he saved, would never have come together. Each of their lives, deeply shaped by Luffy's intervention, would have followed darker, lonelier trajectories. Zoro, for instance, might have met a grim end under Captain Morgan's tyranny. With no Luffy to cut him loose and offer him a reason to fight, Zoro could have faced execution, taking his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman to the grave. Nami's fate would likely have been even more tragic. Without Luffy's unwavering determination to free her from Arlong's oppressive rule, she would have remained trapped, her dream of buying back her village crushed under the weight of endless servitude. The people of Fuschia Village would continue to suffer, and Nami's hope of one day being free might have slowly eroded, leaving her resigned to her grim reality. Usopp, without Luffy's faith in him, might have met his end at the hands of Captain Kuro. Without Luffy's intervention, Kuro's plans would have gone unchecked, leading to devastation for the village and Usopp's likely demise in a futile act of resistance. Sanji, too, would never have left the Baratie. His dreams of finding the All Blue would remain unfulfilled as he toiled away in obscurity. A brilliant cook, never given the chance to become more. The rest of the Straw Hats would share similar fates. Chopper would remain isolated on Drum Island under Wapple's cruel reign. Robin would remain in Crocodile's grip, and Frankie would likely end up imprisoned or worse. Brook, still a wandering soul, would never find the companionship he yearned for, forever lost in loneliness. Without Luffy, this vibrant crew would never have experienced the adventures or joy of chasing their shared dreams. Their destinies, once so full of promise, would dissolve into lives of despair and unfulfilled potential. the ripple effect on the One Piece world. The absence of Luffy's adventures wouldn't just affect his crew, it would leave a void in the world of One Piece. Luffy's actions have a profound, domino-like effect, toppling oppressive regimes, inspiring others to rise, and uniting people across the seas. Without him, the world would remain a darker, bleaker place. Nami's home, Kokoyashi Village, would languish under Arlong's control for decades, its people crushed by fear and servitude. Alabasta, instead of being saved from Crocodile's schemes, would fall into chaos. Vivi, a beacon of hope for her kingdom, would either perish in the struggle or be left to live in a broken, desolate land. Scipio would fare no better. Without Luffy and the Straw Hats to challenge him, Enel's reign of terror would continue unchecked, leaving the island in ruins as he departed for his self-proclaimed destiny on the moon. Fishman Island, too, would suffer without Luffy's intervention. Hody Jones, with his extremist vision, might assassinate King Neptune and plunge the island into chaos, turning a place of hope into one of unending strife. Beyond these specific regions, the Grand Line itself would remain a treacherous, lawless place, dominated by tyrants like Doflamingo and Kaido. With no one to challenge their power, these warlords and emperors would tighten their grip, leaving countless people to suffer under their rule. Even smaller moments, like Luffy befriending allies and inspiring them to follow their dreams, would be absent. Kobe would remain a timid cabin boy, never finding the courage to grow into a marine captain. And characters like Vivi, Rebecca, and Shirahoshi would remain trapped in their struggles without Luffy's help. Luffy's absence wouldn't just mean the loss of his crew, it would mean the loss of the hope and resolve he brings to the world. The Grand Line would be a place devoid of the light Luffy carries, leaving the world of One Piece to spiral into unchecked chaos and despair. Marineford, a battle without heart. The Marineford War stands as one of the most heart-wrenching and iconic arcs in One Piece, driven by Luffy's desperate charge to save his brother Ace. It's a tale of love, sacrifice, and defiance against insurmountable odds. But in this alternate timeline, without Shanks' influence to set Luffy on the path of piracy, the Marineford War would play out drastically differently. The absence of Luffy's fiery resolve and unbreakable bond with Ace would rob the arc of its emotional center, leaving it a cold and brutal battle. In this version of events, Ace might still face the same grim fate, but he would do so alone. Without Luffy's intervention, the dramatic rescue attempt that rallied countless allies and inspired even enemies to take sides wouldn't have occurred. The tides of battle, which shifted repeatedly because of Luffy's sheer willpower and determination, would remain unaltered, with Ace left to endure his punishment without the chaotic and heartwarming display of his brother's love. Luffy himself, if he had followed Garp's wishes and joined the Marines, might find himself reluctantly participating in the war. Imagine him standing on the battlefield, witnessing the carnage, questioning the justice he's sworn to uphold. His free spirit and moral compass would undoubtedly conflict with the rigid structure and cruel decisions of the Marine leadership. He might try to intervene in subtle ways, but without the determination born from his bond with Ace, his role would be muted, his actions restrained. Garp, too, would be left to grapple with his inner turmoil. In the original timeline, Luffy's boldness forced Garp to confront his conflicting loyalties as a Marine and as a grandfather. Without Luffy's presence, Garp's struggle would still exist, but lack the dramatic poignancy that made his internal battles so compelling. Marineford without Luffy would be a hollow war, a brutal, one-sided execution of justice without the raw emotion and humanity that made the original arc unforgettable. The absence of Luffy's reckless courage and unshakable love for his brother would leave the war a darker, grimmer moment in the history of One Piece. Could Luffy still find his dream? Despite everything, one question lingers. Could Luffy still find his dream of freedom and adventure without Shanks? After all, Luffy's determination and boundless energy are integral to his character. He's a person who follows his heart no matter where it leads. But without Shanks, the spark that ignited his journey, it's difficult to say whether Luffy's life would have led him to the high seas or kept him tethered to a more conventional path. If Luffy had become a Marine under Garp's guidance, his journey might have taken a vastly different shape. His natural defiance of authority and his moral compass would likely clash with the rigid ideals of the Marines. Over time, he might have grown disillusioned with the organization's corruption and oppressive practices, leading him to question his role in upholding their version of justice. This could set him on a path toward rebellion, not as a pirate, but as a renegade who seeks to chart his course in the world. His bond with Ace and Sabo might also catalyze change. Even if Luffy didn't start his journey with the dream of becoming Pirate King, the loyalty and love he feels for his brothers might push him to seek freedom and adventure in their company. Together, they could forge a new dream, one that defies the traditional boundaries of Marine or pirate. After all, Luffy's strength has always been his ability to bring people together and inspire them to chase the impossible. However, without the clarity of purpose Shanks provided, Luffy's journey might lack the focus and ambition that defined the original timeline. He could become a wanderer, driven by instinct and curiosity rather than a concrete goal. While he might still find his way to the grand adventure he craves, it would likely be a more chaotic and uncertain path, shaped by the influences of those he loves rather than a dream that's entirely his own. The heart of the story. Imagining a world where Luffy never met Shanks is like imagining a world where the sun never rises. A world without the heart and soul of One Piece. Shanks didn't just give Luffy a goal, he gave him a dream, a purpose, and the unshakable belief that he could achieve the impossible. The red-haired pirate wasn't just a mentor, he was a symbol of freedom, courage, and kindness. Without Shanks, Luffy's journey wouldn't just be different, it would lack the spark that makes it extraordinary. Shanks' influence extended far beyond the stolen straw hat. He taught Luffy what it means to be a pirate, not a ruthless thief or a power-hungry warlord, but someone who values friendship, adventure, and the joy of living life on their terms. Shanks showed Luffy that true strength lies in protecting what you love, even if it means sacrificing everything. That lesson, embodied in Shanks' choice to lose his arm for Luffy, became the foundation of Luffy's values and dreams. Without Shanks, the world of One Piece would be a darker, lonelier place. The people Luffy inspired, the lives he changed, and the dreams he helped others achieve would remain unfulfilled. The Straw Hat crew would never come together, the oppressive regimes Luffy toppled would remain in power, and the countless moments of laughter, triumph, and camaraderie that define the series would simply never exist. But perhaps that's the beauty of Shanks' role in Luffy's life. He's a reminder of how much one person can change the world by inspiring another. It's not just about the battles fought or the treasure sought, it's about the connections we make, the dreams we share, and the ways we uplift each other in even the darkest times. So here's to Shanks, the man who started it all. And here's to Luffy, the boy who took that spark and turned it into a blazing fire, lighting the way for everyone who follows. One Piece wouldn't be the same without either of them, and neither would we. Do you think Luffy could have still become Pirate King without Shanks? Share your thoughts below.